Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. It's about 10:50 in the morning, and we are continuing to go through our markup with the budget adjustment bill. We are going to hear from Rep. Dickinson on hers, her areas, and we have any we can quickly close without too much discussion. That's fine. But then we have Emily from Joint Fiscal Office who's going to go over the spreadsheet about what we've actually approved so far. Because Lynn, we start with 300,
and that's the Secretary's Office for AHS.
Okay, so let's go to page 2 at the top, the 300.
Okay, so we have the first number on this sheet, the white sheet,
Yep.
is it's a net neutral. It is an Act 167 that was a study for the health to look at what the Oliver Wyman report discussed, and that's out of an investment in global commitment. No, wait a minute, wrong one. But that's the 2001, farther down. There's 2 zeros there.
Right.
The one is the 2,300, and that is
2.3 million global commitment.
it's reappropriating contracts and payroll from different parts of the budget for the healthcare reform investment earnings, and that's offset by an investment in global commitment. So that's a 0. And the revenue alignment for the Department of Children and Families is again net neutral. And that is basically they're taking TANF, legal aid was paid by TANF, and they're now transferring that to DCF.
Right, and we saw that on the DCF section yesterday, I think.
And the 2,000 is the health transformation contract. That's
2 million.
and then the deficit of 1442 is although the rest of them are just ADS, SLA.
Right.
Payments that we've got just about with everybody.
Right, so they are reallocating the 1.4 million that they're just taking the central office out to all the.
So that's okay for 300 and
Okay, is everybody okay? Let's pause for a second. Lynn. Is everybody okay with that? Any questions on 300 so we can close that? Okay, thank you.
And then we have on 301, this is the mixing bowl. A lot of this is global commitment adjustments. The 2051. Okay, we have, and I'm not going to get into the details and some of the other things, but we have the DCF, global commitment, federal funds, and that's both federal and state funds. Those are adjustments. The same with the 1.895. That is, this is, that's a carry forward for 2024 Medicaid consensus, and that is applied to the BAA. Let's see where we're at. 729, it's the carry forward required by statute. That is from Dale.
Yep.
And then the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP, and the new adult caseload utilization changes, that's up at the top, the revenue non-departmental. This is accommodating the global commitment or applying the global commitment for CHIP. And the adult caseload utilization changes are because of more the way the new adults, there's fewer CHIPs.
That's right.
And there's the adult caseload is 90-10%, 90 to 10 ratio. So that's so they're basically offsetting each other.
Right, and we're reducing the general fund. We aren't spending it. We're sort of getting it back on the general fund, and then it's being used by federal funds instead.
Yes, yes. And then the healthcare reform investment. This is from Green Mountain Care Board, and so it's being taken out of that and put into, or taken out of general fund and put into that. That's a Green Mountain Care Board transfer. And then the Department of Mental Health is the 154,000.
So these are all global
All the other
commitment.
people's, now, one of it is the 4.3 million, I believe, that is, part of that is has to do with the, have here, the Vermont Veterans Home.
Yes, I have that written down too.
Yeah. And then the rest of them is Department of Aging and Independent Living Global Commitment Adjustments. That is like the 334.1. Again, higher utilization, both that and the 69 million is Department of Health Access Global Commitment. Those are higher utilization.
Yeah, some
That's
of,
DEVA. And the other one is,
right,
Yeah.
Dale is related to the choices for care and the, and Emily, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that some of the 21 million for the EFR, is that? This 55 million and the 69 million that are in the 301. Yeah,
in my mind, that's okay. That's. Other people have different pieces of that, so they have to look at that. Three oh five. And there's really nothing in either 303 or 304.
301.
I'm sorry, 301.
So are people, this is the mixing bowl where everything ends up at the end, so,
Other people, but they should show up in both.
right, right. So are we missing, I think so.
I
Are we
think
missing
so.
anything else? I don't think we're changing anything in the
No.
mixing bowl at this
No.
point, are we, that you're aware of,
No.
Maria?
No.
No, okay,
The committee was sufficient for this? The committee signed
Yes.
off on?
And then the Agency of Human Services Administrative Fund only has ADS fees. Everything else is,
But these are their build back to the various.
this is where they,
departments.
it goes, the agency has the full amount.
Right.
And then they bill it back to their other departments, and that comes to the 3.7 million. But that's where it starts.
right. Okay,
So I would say 305 is also okay, because every other department will have their equivalent in there.
right.
And then on 311, we've got,
Wait, so 306, that's not yours.
not mine.
Okay, we'll go to 311.
And then 311 is the Department of Health. Again, this is ADS, the SLAs, and they are,
Right, that's what they are.
Yeah, we checked it out.
we have that, so that's okay. And then 312 is the same thing. Oh, the only thing in there is the Planned Parenthood for the
Right, and we had already checked that one off.
pharmaceutical management is what they
Yeah.
are.
And then 313, we moved into 2.
That's not. And then the only other thing I have is 345, which is the Green Mountain Care Board.
Yeah, it is fun. It's here.
It's not in here, but it is in
In the language,
the reversion.
okay, let's just get to that for just a second.
Numbers up.
It's on page 38,
38,
and that has, they're reverting 545,782. The project for an RFP, it didn't require a startup money that was budgeted for them. They were using something they had already had, or they could adapt, and they didn't need that money.
okay,
And the treasurer has a couple of things in here, but that's, it's all in language, and I just have to go over that with somebody, but I think they're, bonding adjustments and stuff like that.
right. And we can take a look at that. That was near the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I sent a list to them, and they said that section 75, section 76, section 77, these are bringing statute up to current practice. Section 78. This is sections 131 to 134.1. This is part of the cash fund stuff that we're doing with the,
Right, that's what I wanted to check with, Alice about that. Because it's about the cash.
Some of them, I'm not sure that they're all mine. Some of it is finance and management, working with treasury, so.
Right,
So, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
you want to talk to Alice or you want me to talk?
why don't you show her section 78 in the explanation and see how she is with that? If you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be great. And, okay, and then while we're over there, I had written, the carry forward authority, we'd added the technology modernization special fund. I think that could be yours. I don't know if we automatically have carry forward authority, or they do for all these other funds, and they wanted to add the technology modern specialization fund. So if you want to just check that, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Just fine. And all right, the only other thing while we're sort of at the back there is that the commissioner asked about doubling the appropriation from 50 to 100,000, giving them authority to transfer balances of up to 100,000 instead of 50,000, and adjust a balance not to exceed 200 instead of 100. So I would guess that the 100 and 200 is fine. I don't know if there's anything we need to be concerned about on the 50 to 100,000. So I know, Mike, I think that's yours. So I have your name on it. So if you want to, I don't know who you check with, but you can also talk to Emily. See if there's anything we need to think about. Okay. All right. Lynn, are those all your sections then?
Yeah, there's a couple little other, language things that I want to check, mostly treasury.
Okay. Okay. Great. So you'll be sure we have those. You can send me an email or whatever if we need to do that. Okay. Good. So we just checked a few things off. So the spreadsheet that Emily's going to show us will now be updated by hand. We'll do it by hand. We're not going to wait for you to redo it because it's going to happen all the time. So we'll have Emily come and walk us through the spreadsheet that she has masterfully put together. It was not easy.
Will this be on our iPads? Or is it a hard
Will that
copy?
be online? It's online too, isn't
It
it?
is online, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Chair, I
Yes.
don't know if you want to finish off the veterans thing, because now we have the budget number from the governors for the coming year.
Uh-huh.
So basically what has happened was, and I look back at the previous year. Same kind of thing happened in the 25 budget year. This year, they budgeted for about 21 million. It was 23 million the year before.
Yeah.
And through BAA, it ended up being 29, well, when it started here, it came out of this committee at 29,276, and we got about 30 million.
Yeah.
And so, same scenarios has gone on only this year. It's in the governor's budget as, about 30 million. So they're not doing that again. They're actually budgeting for approximately the right amount.
They are. Okay.
So I'm not, right. There could very well come in for budget deficit, but not at any kind of.
Not at the levels that we've seen.
And
Okay.
I think most of what was going on there was, finance. Trying to work with that lump sum coming at the end of the year and not knowing how to quite deal with that.
Plus they wanted them to budget at a 3% increase.
Yeah.
And the only way they could do that was to not budget for that and do it in budget adjustment. So it was kind of a shell game.
So I'm.
That sounds like they're good. Okay, great. Thank you. Emily?
Morning. You want me to jump right in?
Spreadsheet? Yeah, let's
Great.
go for it. Tell us what we're looking at.
All right. So for the record, Emily Byrne from the Joint Fiscal Office. So what you have in front of you is a summary of and sort of a side-by-side of governor's recommended budget adjustment and then the House budget adjustment, where we are so far. And I will, since this is the first time we're looking at this sheet, I'll sort of walk through what is going on. This is just the this is just the appropriations picture. This doesn't have the revenue side on it. We're sort of fleshing out with the new revenue forecast update, sort of making sure that those numbers are all accurate. And sort of later date, you'll see revenue on the bottom and a balance, but we wanted to get moving on the appropriations side of things as a starting place. So at the top, we have, and through this document, what we've tried to do, in terms of, this is my second year through budget adjustment in this role, what we've tried to do is sort of change the way that we present it so that it shows sort of the full picture of all of the appropriations that are going on, not just sort of what's happening in the budget adjustment. So the whole thing. So that's what you see in green at the top is actually what happened in the FY 2025 not governor's recommended, the budget as passed by the General Assembly. So the first line, line 2, is the total appropriations that were passed. And there won't be
General fund.
this is just the general fund. And so you'll never actually see a difference unless there's sort of some technical problem in that difference from the governor's recommend in the green box, because this is current law, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have the FY 25 as passed appropriations, the Pay Act as passed, and some other bills. So the big one, I think, is Act 181, had additional general fund appropriations in it. The one-time appropriations, we break those out separately so we can track those. The base transfers, so money coming in and out of the general fund. I realize now I'm missing a number already. Line 6 is the contingent appropriations and transfers. So you may recall in the FY 2025 budget, there was anticipated to be, we call it $114 million. It's really $113.58 million of additional revenue that was going to come in. And that got allocated and transferred per the sort of contingent language that was in the budget. So that's all been allocated. $20 million went to the reserves. We'll call that line 6.1. And then, so that was the total appropriations and transfers as passed by the General Assembly. Line 8 is the emergency board appropriation. So this gets talked about again further along, but as part of, in reaction to the floods that happened in July of 2024, the emergency board took $14 million from the treasurer's office and moved it to the BGAP program and the mobile home rapid response program. I think the mobile response.
Improvement program, I think.
No.
No, that's a different one. It's a rapid response.
Okay.
It was a new program that was set up. So that $14 million sort of got appropriated differently.
And that came from the treasurer's office. And at the time the e-board did it, the stipulation was that the governor had to return it to the treasurer's office, which is why we've had that 14 million in the budget.
And it shows up as a new line because that original appropriation was a prior year appropriation. So it sort of has to get pulled into the current fiscal year. So that gives us a total appropriations that were passed at the end of FY 20, or at the end of the last legislative session, plus the emergency board of $2.4 billion of spending. And then in the yellow section is what all of the budget adjustment items are related to the general fund. I'm not going to go through what each of these lines are because you have been doing that as a committee and have been making decisions on those line items. But so what you'll see is in the governor's column is sort of what was proposed by the governor. And then in the House column is, if it's in white, it means that that section has been closed for the work that you've been doing this week and have agreed with that change in the governor's office. If it's in yellow, it's sort of still open and hasn't been settled. You obviously just settled some of those just now, so we can go through and as a group, make sure that we have the right ones closed out that are done. And then if there is anything different, it will show up in the governor's, different from the governor's recommend column. Not a lot has changed so far.
No, so far we've pretty much agreed with what's been
Yeah.
budget adjustment.
And in some cases, like there are certain line item changes that are broken out separately, and sometimes we sort of consolidate all of the changes that are in one 8-1 department into one line item just to, for real estate purposes and to try to keep it simple. So, you know, if you have questions on any of the acronyms or whatever, let me know. So we go through the first sort of line 12 through 58 are the base changes happening in the base. Line 59 to 68 is when we see the changes in the one-time appropriations that are occurring in the budget adjustment. And then there's on line 70 is that sort of funky movement of that $900,000 for the natural resource, the land. It's not the Natural Resources Board anymore. I should know what it is. The
LURB.
I will find out. And
Resources Board.
yes, that sounds right.
And use resources.
I'll find out. Make sure I get that right. Then after that, in the sort of the next section, the next sort of yellow section, 73 to 76 are the changes in transfers to the general fund. And we'll we have a supplemental sheet. I didn't bring it with me today, but I can bring it this afternoon. But that's where you see the changes to things like the $18.5 million that's going to the health insurance fund. Can't remember the other two off the
The
top.
lion's share of it right there.
Yeah. And those other changes. And that brings us to a total sort of adjusted appropriations. The governor recommended $2.528 billion of appropriations. There is a small change that I know you've discussed about funding for substance use and mental health facilities. That sort of increased the House's position at this point to the 2.534.
So that was the one that we had 4 million and we were asked to raise it to 10 million. The governor took it out of the FY26 budget so that we could help support the organizations that are on the edge. So it's a change that's coming from us, but it's really coming from them. It's like we didn't make it up.
We haven't shown something that we changed.
Yeah, well, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. And the other thing I just want to point out is Emily mentioned about consolidating. If you look at line 57, you put all the SLA charges, service level agreement.
Oh, yeah.
In one spot. So instead of breaking it out a zillion times all the way along.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I don't know if there are specific questions. Hopefully this format makes sense. I think in terms of going through, right, what's left in yellow.
I thought we talked about the bond redemption
No,
issue yesterday.
no, I'm holding that open.
Okay.
The 14.9. Yeah, I'm holding it.
Okay.
I am just wondering what happened to B322, which is in the budget adjustment. It's the SNAP.
I believe that is not general funds.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
No,
that's a good question.
No,
that is an important,
yes, and we did talk about this before.
yes.
No, but that's
I
good for
apologize.
people to understand. If you can't find anything on here that is one of yours, check here and see if it's, so thank you for role modeling what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
Yes, and I think, right, if there are other funds that we want to do a similar exhibit for, you let me know, we can pull one together, but the sort of changes in the other funds are, none of them are minimal, but they are sort of different in terms of how they get, looked at,
Right.
reviewed, and yes, we don't sort of aggregate all of those.
Right. And if you want to see all the global commitment together, that's in the 301, right? B301.
Yeah. Yep, so usually we leave B301, right, until all of the decisions about global commitment have been made, and then we make changes to B301 according.
I saw Dave and then.
Okay, sorry.
Harris.
Yes, thank you. If you could help me on line 23, B 309,
Mhm.
Diva Central Office. There's a note in my notes, it says, hold question outstanding. Harris, I don't remember what the outstanding question might be, and
Let me see what that was.
those would be,
And I may have it wrong, it may not be outstanding.
It was,
That's a 333,000.
Yeah, I was understanding the carry forward offset of 333,000, and I think that was Medicaid. Maria?
Did we find out, you do that in global committee? Is that?
This is state only, I mean, that's just part of the big lump sum amount on the carry forward, document that we got. And, I think this is just a piece of it, it's just a small piece of the carry forward that they're using to offset, some of these costs.
So
They're reducing carry forward. They're increasing.
They're using some carry forward amount, funds that we really raise and to offset some of the costs in this appropriation.
okay. Thank you. I think we can unhold it. Unless there's other concerns that I'm not aware of.
Good, so we can close that one out. Thank you. And there was a hold on the line just above it would be the new ADP changes with ISP for ADP. 447,000, that's B306.
It's an ADS bill.
ADS contracts net funding change. There were two things that we had with Viva and ADH contracts that showed 0 on the spreadsheet. Net funding change with Medicaid only advanced planning document
Okay.
and ADS contract with Medicaid only advanced planning document.
And that would-
How do you interpret that?
Yeah, could we reach out to our contact at Diva to get a explanation of that? You know, you can do it quicker than I can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So that, the rest of it was fine, it was just those, which are both related to the Medicaid only advanced planning document. You're learning something new about AHS. And then, yeah, global commitment. Oh, and then the state's attorneys, Trevor, I'm looking at line 15, B205, that was the ADS.
No, it was,
SLA.
they sent a memo subsequent to the testimony that they thought they had 2 of their numbers incorrect.
Yeah,
They haven't gotten back to me and I just sent another email saying, can you give me an update? They said,
Okay.
I have a new number. And then they said, well, wait, we need to check one of those.
okay,
So I said.
so we're waiting, so that That number
What
may go
what
down.
it'll probably mean is that the SLA charges for SAS will go down
Okay.
significantly. And
right,
then there'll be a little bit of a bump in the B205 line.
oh, okay. But the total will be less than what the governor had proposed.
By a couple $100, $200,000.
Thousand, that's nice, okay, I'll take it. And then I'm just looking at what else is open pending. B317 transportation contracts, pending email from AHS. That's DCF Family Services. Line 33.
Getting there, yep. I'm having a meeting at noon time with the business manager to learn more about that,
Okay. Great.
as opposed to guessing.
That's
Now,
not
what
what
it
we
might
planned. Great. Any other, yes, go ahead.
208 and 210, it's pending. Okay, I'll fill opposites, looking at that.
Okay,
They're fine.
so this is the Department of Public
Public
Safety.
Right. One is, screwing up the, fund for criminal record checks,
Mm-hmm.
and the other, without my notes, I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
But I think they're pretty straightforward, but I've asked them to look at it, that's the communication we have back. and forth.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
Quick for Emily.
Yeah.
The change in the fund from 4 million to 10 million came from the administration. Do you know if the fiscal year 26 starting 20 budget, what where did that change, or are we already 6 million behind in the fiscal year 26 budget proposal?
So I talked to Adam about it.
Yeah.
And he said that they were gonna put it in FY 26.
Okay.
And they're moving into FY 25
That's
because the
fine.
urgency was
Yeah.
great. So we're not behind.
We're not behind.
At least not in that
That's
one.
fine. Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
That's how I first thought too. Yeah.
And Dave and I have language that just needs to be approved, by the hires up, at AHS relating to that.
So that 10 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
To define it.
Okay. Okay. And I do want to just check in with people about my notes on what we need for language. Are there any other questions on the spreadsheet, or is anybody feeling like they're missing anything that we've talked about, or? Seems like we're good. Emily, this is really helpful.
Is there anything with, like Human Rights Commission, or are those all still open?
They're still open.
Okay.
Well, let me see so Jim just talked about his healthcare reform investment, so we took care of 300.
Okay, that one's done.
Those two are done. 19 and 20. 21, we think we're done, but we're just make sure all the Medicaid is done, so we'll still hold that open, but what we have so far is fine. Jim is checking. No, wait. No, that's Dave. We're getting some information there. We answered the question in B309, so I think we're good there. We're waiting on transportation contracts on line 33. I'm just looking at the yellow. I'm not sure I understand B320 and 321 and 323 caseload adjustments.
Those were reversions in both of those categories.
Okay.
And, the Human Services Committee,
Oh, that's right.
Different.
That's right. That's right. We don't have.
So I'm still
Okay,
working
reach out.
with that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. GA and reach up. I need to look at the rest of it. Okay. And then, mainframe transition planning with DCF, the one time of 340,000, B 1100.
I'm gonna ask that. If you got secretary.
Okay.
Which I may have short. So
Okay. Great.
I don't know that there's, but technology, it might be.
Right.
So.
Okay. And you met with them this morning, your meeting?
I mean, you know,
Okay, great, that's right. I knew that was happening at some point. So, when I look at the language pieces that we need to do that I'm aware of, we either have, Brady's working on, or some people need to get. The reserve fund related to CCFAP, Brady is working on that. The SNAP language, I think we have language.
we do.
We have language for that. Then we also have language for the adult learning. We learned that they needed some language to go with the money and to clarify so those people can get their diplomas and get jobs. So that is, Brady has that. You are finishing up the stabilization language. Trevor, you're doing correctional industries language.
Yeah, they have
it.
a,
Okay. And you were also doing an AG physician language?
they have a.
Okay. Great. And then there was a language tweak that the General Housing Committee said related to VHFA that was in their letter. Yeah, but I think that JFO has that now.
Yes.
Okay. They do. So that's good. We have the language on the marriage license repeals of the sunset. Tom, you've turned in some language for Sergeant at Arms. Okay. And Brady's also had the Act 250 board language, he told me. There was, he's not here, but isn't there language about something about with the 900 and the National Resources Board and the LURB and the, right, there was some language that we had to have.
We gotta get the name right. When the big bill passed, it was called the Natural Resources Board, and then 181 passed and the name changed, and we just have to get the name.
We have to get the name right so the right place actually gets the money, not a place that doesn't exist anymore. I think JFO figured that out and they're gonna do it like that. So, okay. Those were all the things I had for language that we've talked about. Is there anybody else that is supposed to be getting language for something that, yes, Lynn?
I just was looking through here. And one that's not closed is the 1100 for the treasurer's office, the bond redemption for e-board. I thought we had done this yesterday.
What, is that the 14 million?
That's the 14.
No, we're not, that's being held open.
Yeah, well, it had to do with 7 million that the e-board moved out to help with the mobile home.
Yes, right, so this is the e-board had given $14 million, 7 for the mobile home rapid response, 7 million for DCAP, with the stipulation that the governor needed to put money back from the general fund into that fund. And that's what this is. It's putting back.
I believe that's what this 14 million is a bit.
It is what that 14 million
So that
is.
would be okay if we.
I have other ideas, so we're holding that open right now.
It open, okay.
Yes.
So just a clarification on this process that we're finishing right with this form anyway.
Yeah.
With this thing, this represents what we've talked, this represents the administration's proposal. But it doesn't include any of the questions that came up from committees' requests or committee supports. There's some support throughout.
Right.
With the numbers, with the governor's, with the administration's proposal. But again,
So, yes, so we've done the things that, in most cases, the committees were agreeing, not all, but in most cases, the vast majority, the committees agreed what was in the budget adjustments. There are some other pieces that have not, we haven't addressed necessarily that either weren't in the governor's budget and that we are looking at, seeing what we can address. What we have, what we
between now and
can.
5 p.m.
Yep,
That's
yep,
right.
yep,
Great, thank you.
yeah. So, but by and large, this is not the most complex, convoluted budget adjustment we've ever had, which makes it a lot easier. It's nice. It isn't always that way, but we'll take it when we
Are
can
you
get it.
saying you miss ARPA?
No. I miss being able to hand out the money, but so we are a good chunk of the way there. We have language we need to talk about. I've just talked about letters. I think those are all the letters I thought that we need at this point. So I think we should look at the language. That
Okay.
makes sense?
I don't know.
Or we're good. Oh, Grady's gonna have something, isn't he?
We'll have it this afternoon. We'll go through if that works. I don't know if
Yes.
I know he's working on it.
Let's do that. Okay,
We were gonna walk through the governor's recommend
yeah,
areas where there might be changes, areas that are either like, there may be technical. Well, he has it like he's formatted it all sort of ready to go. So
okay,
look side by side with what the governor proposed. There may be some technical changes. Ledge Council has looked at the budget adjustment language to make sure. And there are some, areas of decisions that need to be made and then deciding on whether or not you want to accept or reject any of it and then
Right.
changes.
okay. So that's what we'll spend the afternoon doing, is we'll be going over language part. And if there's any other pieces, it sounds like there's a couple meetings happening that'll wrap up some of these other number pieces that we have open. And if you need to meet with anybody else or you have some time to do that. So we will meet back here at Meet at 1 or 1:15? 1 o'clock? Since we're leaving early, so let's meet back here at 1 o'clock. Okay, that's great. Let's go out live.